Hello, I'm Douglas Newell, the Artistic Director of the Enid Symphony Orchestra, and today my special guest is Victoria Moreira, the newly appointed Executive Director of the Enid Symphony Orchestra. We call her Tori, and today she and I are going to discuss the upcoming performance of Flipside, the Patti Page story. It's being brought to us by the marvelous Greg White and the production company out of Oklahoma City. This is a production that has toured the United States. It has been off Broadway. It won many, many honors at the Kennedy Center for original production, original score, original scoring, acting, you name it. It is a widely honored professional theatrical production, which we're happy to present at the Enid Symphony Center on Saturday and Sunday, September 16th and 17th. Mm-hmm. So Tori, tell us about Flipside.
Yeah, so we're bringing in Flipside, the Patti Page story, in September, and it depicts the life and career of Miss Patti Page, who's known as the singing rage Miss Patti Page in her prime of the 1950s, and it follows her story beginning with Clara Ann Fowler, who is actually her original name. She took on the stage name of Patti Page later on in life. And it's a really interesting format. It's a very small cast, 6 people, not including a dog, which we'll talk about here in a second. And there's 2 Patti Pages, one who's younger, sort of beginning her career, getting into the prime of her career, and then an older Patti Page. And how the story is set, it begins in an old performance hall. They're getting ready to tear it down, break it down, and she sort of gets on stage and she begins to, reminisce and recount her life story. And it's really fascinating because the story is actually weaved together through a series of interviews that she's done with news critics and music critics, and that's how this fictional story is derived. And there's a ton of her hit songs, I believe 12 or 13 of her songs that are woven into the storyline. So it's really fascinating. You'll get almost like a biographical depiction of her life story with also some of her greatest hits. So it's a little bit different than what we've done in the past few years. So we're really excited to open our 25th silver season of being in the Symphony Hall with this production.
Sounds like a lot of fun. But Tori just alluded to the fact that there's going to be a lot of Patti Page songs. Now, most of us have heard the Tennessee Waltz. I was waltzing with my darling to the Tennessee Waltz. I could do a dramatic reading, but I'm not going to. And we probably all know the song or have sung it, well, as children, some of us had it sung to us by our parents. How much is that doggy in the window? So those are some of the songs. Can you tell us some of the other songs, the other Patti Page hits that were in this show? Because the show is, it's not just songs, it's choreographed, there's dancing. I understand it's like a 95-minute show without intermission. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the other songs?
Old Cape Cod, and it's really like just a ton of her greatest hits. And it's very interesting because some of the songs that are actually going to be portrayed actually features her really unique way of doing her backing tracks, like her backup vocals. Mm-hmm. We were doing a little bit of research into what really made Patti Page so significant. And she was actually one of the best-selling vocalists of the 1950s, one of the most well-known vocalists to ever come out of Oklahoma. And what really makes her unique is that she is the first artist to actually record her voice on each of the individual parts and put them on top of each other. And it's really interesting how this happened because it's actually disputed how this happened. I remember we were giving an interview a few weeks ago and we were reading that it was a union strike, and so her backup musicians were striking, and so she had to record this song, and her producer was like, well, what would happen if we just recorded your voice individually and put it together, because we don't have backup singers? and they did that, and obviously it worked marvelously. And then there's another story where her producer at the time said, we don't want to spend the money on backup singers for you until you produce a major hit. And then they said, we'll save money if we just record your voice over. And then it became one of her greatest hits. So it's really fascinating. Like, we'll really be showing all of those hits.
Sounds like an evening of fun. Now, mentioning an evening of fun, the Saturday night performance is preceded at 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. by a cash bar at the Enid Symphony Center. Program from 7:30 to about 9 o'clock, and then a post-concert reception. And it's free of charge. There'll be wonderful food there to enjoy and to chat with the performers, to get to know them a little bit better, and perhaps learn even a little more about Patti Page, because I understand that there are two ladies singing the part of Patti Page. One when she was like a 19-year-old when this started at KTUL in Tulsa, where her career, I guess, truly blossomed out of that. And then another when she was a mature artist. So it's very fascinating. But I want to know about this dog. I mean, we know a bunch of dogs, but we do. But anyway,
Yes.
I heard the laughter, and they're not even in the studio. But we know this dog. I forget what type dog he is. He's a little white, sort of. It's Helga Jansen's dog named Manny. Mm-hmm. And Manny, if he behaves himself, is going to make a cameo appearance in this production when Patti sings "How Much Is That Doggy in the Window?" Now, if he doesn't, I suppose we're going to have to get Mittens the cat and dress Mittens as a dog and have a stand-in that way.
That's true. I've just recently adopted a kitten named Mittens. He's about this large. If we put a little dog mask or dog ears on him, I'm sure he would be a great backup. I mean, I think it's preferable if we do have a dog. And Manny's this adorable poodle that I think would be perfect.
He is. Mm-hmm. He is. And he's well behaved and well trained. So it's going to be perfect on the stage. Mm-hmm. We're excited about that. So, local dog in a production of Flipside, the Patti Page story. What can you tell us about Greg White, the guy behind all this? He has the idea he meets Patti Page backstage after a performance, and all of a sudden becomes interested in writing about her, creating. Tell us about Greg.
So I believe actually you and Greg have collaborated in the past, and you guys work together because he is actually he's the professor and also director of musical theater at University of Central Oklahoma, where Doug, if I might call you Doug on the air, is the opera conductor and has been the opera orchestra conductor for the past
5 years or so.
Several years.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of how you guys got to meeting and how you've gotten to collaborate. And he's actually come to the symphony and has soloed with us in the past. Did he do White Christmas with us, or what productions has he?
No, that's one of the things he and I are talking about doing. He wants to do the Danny Kaye role, and I think we probably look at that programming at that in another year or so. Mm-hmm. But Greg's a colleague. Of course, many of his students are in the musical theater, are also cast in the opera productions at UCO, and the kids there. That is a first-rate training program for young would-be musical theater and opera actors, singers, dancers, etc.
Mm-hmm. And I actually believe the original Patti Page, when he first produced and wrote the show, was a graduate of University of Central Oklahoma. I believe her name was Emily, and she was the premier Patti Page, and I believe actually several UCO students were featured in this premiere production. So he not only instructs the UCO students and they put on a variety of great shows at the college, but he has actually featured them in Patti Page, and they've actually gone on to perform off-Broadway, on Broadway, either in Flipside or on a, variety of different productions. And he himself is also quite an accomplished actor and singer. He and Emily have done performances at Northwestern, and actually my husband Eduardo accompanied them on their most recent performance. He's a fabulous singer and a fabulous, performer. So I think that really adds an element to it when you have someone who's a performer and an artist themselves producing and creating a show.
Yeah, there's actually one of the guys in the production, Mark Johnson, was a soloist with the Enid Symphony in 1985 when we did or 86 when we did the Mendelssohn Oratorio Elijah. I was looking for a tenor soloist, and he was at that time a graduate student at OU. So you see, we've known each other about more than 3 years. But anyhow, he's also an excellent musical theater actor, and he's in this production. I want to tell you a little bit about how this production has been honored nationally at the Kennedy Center at the 2012 Kennedy Center National Theater Festival. It was awarded the Outstanding Production of a Musical, the Outstanding Director of a Musical, the Outstanding Performance by an Actress, the Outstanding Guest Artist, the Outstanding Sound Design, the Distinguished Performance and Production Ensemble, Distinguished Production of a New Work, Distinguished Achievement in Costume Design, Distinguished Achievement in Lighting Design, Distinguished Achievement in Choreography.
Oh my goodness.
And a commendation for achievement in musical direction and musical arrangement. Zach Lee, who wrote the charts for the show, will be playing in the band. And a commendation for distinguished vocal arrangements as well as musical ensemble, and the regional winner of the Director's Choice Award at the Kennedy Center Theater Festival in 2012. So you're getting all of this at the Enid Symphony Center, professional musical theater. It's a fantastic production. I can't say enough of wonderful things about it. But we have other things coming up this season, and we're in the midst of a very important activity for the symphony right now. We've just begun. It's called the Premier Fund Drive. Can you tell us what that is and what that does for the symphony?
Yeah, so it is sort of our one of our main annual fundraisers of the year. We do it in the fall, and it's a fantastic way of raising funding and support for our upcoming season. And we have actually received $99,000, which is incredible. We have such generous supporters in our community and support the orchestra. But we've received $99,000 in support that must be matched, and it won't be distributed until after January. So our big project for this year was we really want to raise $99,000 in matching funds to match the 99, and then basically whatever you give towards this fund will be doubled by other contributions. So in a way, if you're giving, say, $500 to the symphony actually receives $1,000, so we receive double that much, and it's a really fantastic way of supporting, not just your local orchestra, your professional orchestra that's in your community. We are one of 5 professional orchestras in the state of Oklahoma. We pay our players, we bring in high quality players from around the region. So you're showing your support for our beloved orchestra in town. So that's sort of what the Premier Fund Drive is, because we obviously receive income from single tickets and season tickets, but I believe season tickets are 10 to 15% of our income. So we rely on the generous support of our patrons, like you all in the audience.
So the $99,000, that's toward a budget of about $390,000 a year to create and produce the programming that we present in the Joan Allen Symphony Hall. You mentioned the Silver Season. Why are we calling it the Silver Season?
Because 25 years ago, The Enid Symphony had their premiere performance in the Joan Allen Symphony Hall. It was of the Magic Flute, and this was back in 1998. And so the final concert of this year will mark the 25th anniversary of us being in the Joan Allen Symphony Hall after the completion. So that's why we're calling it our, because if you've been married for 25 years, that's a silver season. So why not call this season our silver season of the Joan Allen Symphony Hall?
Look at you.
Now this was obviously
This is wonderful.
before my time of being here in Enid, not before my time here on Earth, but
Oh, go ahead and expound about that. That would be a good one. Clutch the pearls and tell us about it.
oh, it's interesting talking to our supporters and talking to people in the community, and it's just amazing how people remember sort of your campaign to raise the funds and also to raise this. It really took a village to create this hall and to completely restore.
It did. It's a tremendous community effort to do this and have such a facility here. We've had many guest artists from around the world come in and say, you know, this is world-class theater. This is a world-class place to perform as a musician, a classical musician. But we're doing something else this year. We're in the process of doing, and by the time you see this on the air, and please share these videos with your friends. I mean, she's beautiful. I'm fun. I mean, just share the videos.
I thought I was the fun one. I think I'm the fun one.
Okay. Whatever she says, she is now the executive director, so it's true.
That's
she is
true.
the fun one. At any rate, please share these videos so other people know about this, because this year we're doing something with our ticket pricing totally different. We've never done it before. I've always had that bullheaded idea that every seat in the house was a good seat, and that is true.
It is.
But there are some seats that are a little more desirable than others, so what are we doing?
So what we're doing is we're actually doing, I think you could call it like a tiered ticketing or scaled ticket. So rather than setting a set ticket price for all of the seats in the house and then offering discounts, which we will continue to do, student, teacher, and military discounts, what we're doing is we're actually setting the ticket price based on the location of the seat. So for instance, our ticket prices for the remainder of the season was a set ticket price of $40 with the discounts available, and we'll actually be keeping those $40 ticket prices for a particular level on the orchestra floor in the back, because those are raised seating. And then we change the ticket prices based on if you have an aisle seat in one section or if you are in the inside of a section. And we do that because even though every seat is a good seat, like you will never ever have a bad seat in the house, it depends on what you want more of in the performance. So for instance, and just acoustically speaking, and this isn't really how the hall was designed, this is just how acoustics work. If you're on the orchestra level, but in the back on those raised seats, you actually have the best acoustics. And it's probably because you're in front of the natural acoustic system that we have. But if you are, and you also have really good visuals because you're raised. You're not really looking over anybody. So those are probably like the most desirable seats in the house. But if you're up in the balcony, you've got the best visuals. You know, you can see over the orchestra, and those are all naturally raised. So you're not looking over anybody. You know, and of course, if you are in an aisle, it's easier to get to. It's like, you know, buying an airplane ticket. You know, you have the aisle seat, you have the window seat, then you have the middle seat. Depends on if you want the most easily accessible, if you want the one with the best views, or you want the cheapest one in the middle.
There you go.
Yeah, and so we're trying that out for this show. So we're offering ticket prices of, it's a range of $25 to $50, and that'll be available
Very accessible
on our website, and we'll show you on the grid how that's going to work out. Most other professional orchestras do that. You know, Chicago Symphony,
Sure.
New York, Oklahoma City Philharmonic does that. You know, so it's something that we're experimenting with.
Well, that sounds exciting. Certainly to me, because I like for the symphony to be funded. I think it's a great thing, and it's a wonderful addition to the Enid community. If you have never visited our hall, at the corner of Washington and Broadway, it's on the 4th floor of what used to be known as the Knox Building. We now call it the Enid Symphony Center. I hope you'll take a chance to make an opportunity to come visit us and hear the wonderful orchestra in performance, and especially this next performance on 2 weeks. It's Cherokee Strip Weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the 16th and 17th of September. Flip side, the Patti Page story. I think you'll find it very charming. It's a piece of Oklahoma history that maybe some have forgotten, but should remember, because she was really one of the first great recording artists in our history as a state. So I want to thank you, Tori, for being my guest today. Normally, Tori sits over here. We just decided to change roles today at the last minute and see how it worked out. If you enjoyed it, drop us a line. If you didn't, well, watch another segment when she's in the questioning chair and I'm over there in the answering chair. Nonetheless, I'm Douglas Newell, and this is
Tori Morera
for the Enid Symphony Orchestra. Thank you for joining us on this segment of Community Talk.